Welcome, everybody. Mohawk Matt here, bringing you another fantastic human being. And today I've actually got Dr. Dio Placencia. Dio, what's up?
What's going on, brother?
Dude, I am taking over the world. I mean, you can't tell right now. If I do this, you can see my mohawk.
Right,
If I do this, I can kind of hide from the police.
right.
So,
Uh,
Dio, you are a research scientist with the Naval Research Lab, correct?
yes, sir. I am.
That is very cool. And
Chemist.
you actually live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, right?
I do.
That is pretty
2 years
awesome.
now.
Few
hmm
years. That's really cool. And I want to hear
hmm
more about that later. First, we're going to get into the science. So you really focus on optoelectronics. Tell
hmm
us tell us a bit about who you are and kind of what the optoelectronics is.
So I'll start, I guess, backwards. So optoelectronics is the science of combining light and electrical response that comes from that light.
Okay.
So think of like anything that involves the camera, uh, you know, that kind of technology where light comes in, electrical response out. That's all it is.
That's
Mhm. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's pretty simple. That's a lot
Yeah, yeah.
simpler than I mean, I hear optoelectronics, I think like optical. I thought for sure you're going to talk about I replaced eyeballs so that you can have bionic eyes or something like that.
Well, maybe in the future, but right now, or somebody else is doing that, but I'm not involved in that side of things. So
Okay.
eventually. hmm
Good to know. So
And
if I need a new eye, I'll know to not call you.
nah, I'm the last person you should call.
So tell us kind of what you're up to right now in optoelectronics in the Navy Marine Corps.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we're looking to do is use nanomaterials. So I'm sure you've heard of the Samsung Quantum Dot TV. I
Yeah.
mean, you see them in Costco everywhere, right? I mean, you go and they're like $500-700 or whatever they are right now. But we're gonna grab those same materials and we're trying to make them basically active in the infrared. So in that
Wow.
portion of the spectrum where we really can't see for all sorts of technological applications. That's basically the big focus right now.
That's very cool. How did you get into that? Were you like a 6-year-old deal? Like, man, one day I'm gonna look at the way we look at things and visualize things, and I'm gonna go into opto stuff. Or how'd you get into that?
Yeah. So I guess it goes all the way back to chemistry. Back when
Okay.
I saw, as my background, so I'm a research scientist as a chemist within the lab. But when I was in high school, I remember taking chemistry, and that really just, opened up the entire world to me in
Wow.
terms of trying to get a sense of understanding for what the natural world was like.
Yeah.
And it's a random walk, right? From there, you go to college. Somebody says, "Hey, you want to do some research?" And next thing you know, you find out graduate school is for free, and I'm like, "Oh, I can go to grad school for free," and went from there. I mean, there's a whole history behind that, but nonetheless, it's basically a little bit of a random walk,
Okay.
and you end up where you end up. I mean,
So
so
when you say you went to grad school for free, was that through like a Navy Marine Corps program, or you just found some dude on the street that paid for your college?
yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to you know to get the information on the different types of DoD grad school programs that were out there, like the SMART fellowship was one of them. I
Yeah.
didn't know about that. A lot of times it's just not knowing.
Yeah.
Um, how I go in for free, that's just the way that STEM works is normally, you go in as a teaching assistant, you take classes, then you end up working with a professor who's in a research area you're interested in, and he pays you out of some grant that he got from the federal government. Actually, my PhD was fully funded by ONR. So,
Okay. That's very cool. And ONR, for those that don't know, is Office of Naval Research.
hmm hmm
So that is
which is
very
the organization I work for now.
yes,
Small world.
and I want to get into that more here in a little bit. First, I want to kind of
hmm
talk about where is optoelectronics now? Like, what are the like? So you kind of mentioned some of the things you're working on. Are there other things that are kind of going on that are like revolutionary? They're good, bad, different.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it from, it's a number of different fields, right? Like optoelectronics is very multidisciplinary. So you have material scientists that are working area. You got optical people doing that. You got, the mathematical folks doing their own thing. So where it is, it really depends on the field. I can tell you that from the
Okay.
side of material science, it's really evolving into one that is trying to employ materials, novel materials like 2D materials. You guys
Yeah.
have probably heard of graphene. That's just like the prototypical one, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. They're trying to use quantum dots, which is the stuff that I'm doing. Quantum
Yeah.
dots is basically just a nanometer size level of like a spherical, typically nanocrystal,
Okay.
which now is active in the infrared. So the field is now all moving towards grabbing these materials, which are active in these regions that are of interest,
Yeah.
not just to academia, but to the DoD, and trying to develop devices that work within that region. That's
Okay.
then that's where sort of things are moving.
Very, very cool. So you kind of talked about the TVs and the quantum dots that people could see. Are there other applications? Like, what else can I see optoelectronics in? Is it like in my everyday life? Are we using it now? I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, just the cameras right now, right, that we're
Okay.
using, so sort of view each other like CCDs, charge couple device, which basically that's what these silicon, little cameras are picking up on us right now. Or the augmented reality, all that stuff with the phones, right now.
Yeah.
The new iPhone, I think, is going to have like an AR feature, and all that is just taking in, and that actually reminds me, they're going to be having these lidars. So these are those sensors that they use to do ranging,
Uh-huh.
to sort of figure out the distance to where a material is relative to where you are. So then using that information, you can now start to project, the sort of the AR features that you sort of see within the technology.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
mm,
That's pretty cool.
so
So when you say AR on your iPhone, I think about like, you talking about like when I use my AR iPhone to catch Pokemon on Pokemon Go, or are you talking like way more advanced?
No, that's exactly it, right? Like
Okay.
that's like the classic example that everybody probably knows is go catch some Pokemon. You put your phone right over a certain area, then you
Uh-huh.
see it. So that's an example of that AR. Also, when you can put like one of the new technologies that I've seen is where you can go up to a sign. Let's say you're in Japan,
Yeah.
has a bunch of letters and characters that you don't quite understand. You just put your phone right over it, and they actually project those features onto that translates it into your language.
That's
That's another
pretty
feature
awesome.
of it, right? There's a number of different things that are
So
being
that's
used a
and
lot.
and that's what's crazy is I mean I've seen this stuff. I've caught my fair share of Pokemon, um, but I never realized, like, I never thought about the science behind it and actually what
Right.
makes it work. So next time
Hmm.
I'm out there catching them Pokemons or Harry Potters or whatever you're playing these days, I think they have Jurassic Park now. You can catch dinosaurs
Yeah.
in AR.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna be
Yep.
like, hey, did you know you're using optoelectronics? Because I did.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
My man Dio told me all about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
That's where it's at, man. And
that's
there's
really
all sorts of
cool.
applications for that, but things, everyday things, that's where you're gonna see it.
Yeah, definitely. Is there what ways are you kind of working in naval research labs of kind of the future? Like, where are there things you can share of things you're kind of working on, or things, where do you, Dio, think it's going? Like, I think it's going to be embedded in my eyeball, or in the
Hmm.
brain,
Hmm.
or where you kind of seeing it's going?
Well, with the use of these quantum dots, the big driver behind using this technology is to move away from the current fabrication processes. So we're talking about ultra high vacuum type of technology. So when I talk ultra high vacuum, just think of a space that there's nothing in it, right? No air,
Okay.
no nothing, right? And the way that these devices are currently fabricated is in those environments. Now, in order to make those types of materials in that environment, it's very costly, right? Because you have pumps, you have stainless steel systems, and all these other things. Where we're going with these quantum dots is using a solution processed approach. So that
Okay.
immediately reduces the cost in order to fabricate these materials. Um, Assuming that now you can make these optoelectronic devices, cheaper and in the
Yeah.
infrared, where you got to start thinking is very cheap sensors, right? So the Navy is really moving towards a situation where we're going to need more autonomous systems. So whether
Okay.
it's UAVs, whether it's boats that are just running around autonomously, doing
Hmm.
their own thing, talking to each other, all of
Yeah.
that is going to require a lot of cheap sensors, right? So imagine super swarm technology, right? When we're talking
Yes.
about 300, 400 drones flying into the sky, you can't put a $20,000 or $30,000 sensor on each one of those drones.
No.
It's just not cost effective. So now if you can make these devices cheaper and now mount them in these systems that are all going to be talking to each other, that's where things are going. And that's the big driver behind making this technology. So that's where I think it's going so far.
That's fantastic. I want to pull one thread. You kind of talk about
Hmm.
drones. So I have a drone at home.
Hmm.
When my drone like is about to run into a tree and it doesn't, is that using optoelectronics?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely it is.
mind blown. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm learning all
Absolutely.
kinds of things today.
It's probably the LiDAR sensor on there. I mean, I don't know much about the sort of what that drone looks like or what it has, but
Sure.
it's the same technology that's going to be in these self-driving cars. Right? It's
That's
just a
cool.
bunch of LiDAR sensors that are going to be, oh, this car is 50 feet away. No, no, not, so start braking now. And, so that's all optoelectronics. It's everywhere.
That's awesome. I
Mhm.
didn't realize this. There's just so much out there, and I am the farthest thing from a science guy. And so I'm just like, how does your phone work? I don't know. I turn it on.
It's like you and 99.8% of the population. So it's okay. It's fine.
Uh,
That's why they pay nerds like me to figure this out. It's all
exactly. You love this stuff. You can nerd out all day and make sure that I catch the best Pokemon that I possibly can.
100%, man. I'm there with you.
Definitely. And you're making sure that my drone doesn't hit a tree. And I appreciate
Exactly.
that. Or a person. So that's
100%.
great. So let's
100%.
kind of circle back a bit, Dio.
Yeah.
You're in Sao Paulo, Brazil, working for the Navy. What's going on? How you doing that?
Oh man. So this is a great thing about working, I think, for the Navy that I've been, blessed, if you want to use that word,
Yeah.
working for the Navy, that I've gotten a lot of opportunities to go and do a bunch of different things, right? So I started out as a postdoc, which is basically after your PhD, you do another 2 to 3 years of postgraduate work.
Yeah.
So I did my postdoc at the Navy. I became a federal employee, but became basically a Department of Navy
Yep.
employee. And then after that, I found out, I was like, oh, did you know that you can go and do a special assignment, with ONR Global? I was like, ONR Global, like who's that? And I found out a little bit more about what they do, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I applied.
What is ONR Global first?
Yeah, yeah. ONR Global is essentially the international arm of the Office of Naval Research.
Okay.
So what they do is facilitate partnerships between countries, and which where there you can delineate to academic institutions,
Yeah.
military to military, kind of relationships and those kinds of things. So ONR Global handles all of that. In particular, my function within Global is to go to universities, talk to professors, figure out what they're doing, offer an opportunity for a research grant on technologies that we think are basically groundbreaking or very important for technology that probably will be implemented within the U.S. Navy probably 10 to 20 years from now. So
Wow.
that's the idea. I'm a tech scout essentially. So
Hey,
in addition to a number of
there's worse
things.
place to live to be a tech scout than Brazil. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's my background is Dominican.
Okay.
So as I would like to say, it's just like the Dominican Republic, but with a lot more taller buildings. So it's a great place overall. Great people, great food. Honestly, worst traffic I've ever seen, but other than that, it's great. So
That's awesome. So next time I'm flying over Sao Paulo, because I fly over it like every day, I'll
yeah, right.
I'll come hit you up. We can grab some food. You can teach me more about how to catch my Pokemon better, and we're good to go.
I'm there. I'm right there with you, man. No problem.
No, so that's awesome, Dio. Well, is there anything else you want to share about kind of what you're up to in optoelectronics or what you do down in Brazil at all?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's I think, with respect to optoelectronics,
Yeah.
I think it's one of these fields that it's only accelerating. It's not going to die out anytime soon. There's all sorts of applications, as I said, LiDAR for cars, new cameras, right? Who wouldn't
Yeah.
want a better selfie, right? Unless it shows too many details.
Yeah, it's
Hold off
a
on
little bit
that,
too
right?
detailed. Yeah. Need
Right.
some filters to
Exactly.
calm my face down.
Exactly, right. Work on those Snapchat filters and all that stuff that, that the kids are using these days,
Yeah.
I've used them too, with my mom and stuff and taking photos. But so no, there's definitely there is a whole new paradigm that's about to open up with all of these new materials that are starting to get investigated, specifically actually within universities. To be honest with you, universities is where really the fundamental, really groundbreaking work a lot of times gets done, and then the labs kind of start to see like, oh, this is interesting, and then we start working with those materials. So there's going to be all sorts of things that are going to be coming in the next couple years, that's
That's
going to
great.
make use of optoelectronics. Um, as far as O&R Global, like my job is completely different there, so in the lab,
Yeah.
I still do that job. I'm a scientist, right? I'm going in there and working with my postdocs and a couple other people and making new
Uh-huh.
materials and doing things. And then the next day I fly back to Brazil and I put on a suit and I go into the State Department consulate. That's where my office is. And I get to talk with people from different navies and try to work out deals and research agreements between countries. So, it's very dynamic set of, jobs that the Navy has allowed me to do.
Yeah.
So, mhm,
That is really cool. That's really unique. And I mean,
mhm.
just the fact that as much as I would love to come visit you in Brazil right now, I'm grateful that we can have this conversation across the country. And that's awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's optoelectronics. It's the reason we're
Boom,
doing it, right?
boom, right there. My man Dio, bringing it back
Absolutely.
full circle. First,
100%.
full circle. Well, Dio, thanks for joining today. I really love talking to you. I've been learning a ton from all these sciencey people I've been chatting with, but I had no idea. Like, I mean, I knew there was something that happened, but I didn't realize like there was a whole thing focused on just that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there's so much more, and there's so many opportunities. If I
Yeah.
knew if I know now if I what is it, how's that saying go? If I
If I
was
knew what
young
I
and I knew
knew,
what I know now, yeah, exactly. Like, oh my gosh, like there's so many things and so many, but
so let me
yeah,
pull that thread one more time. If
sure.
for those that are watching, what if they're like, okay, this is cool. I want to get into this. What's like one thing you would say? Start doing this now
If there's,
on in the
well, definitely
optoelectronics world.
right. I would say if it's something that you should start right now is start research.
Okay.
So go to your local go to your local I was going to say local university. You're already there.
Mhm.
But find a professor who's doing something within that area, because those professors normally have, a PhD. Normally
Yeah.
they're tied to some other institution, and normally they will make those connections for you. And that's exactly how I ended up in this field. I
That
had one professor that was doing something in the area, and he connected me to a friend, and next thing you know, I'm in grad school, and it all sort of just goes from there.
that's excellent. I'm glad you said go to your local university. I thought you were going to say go to your local Costco and tear apart a TV. Oh, so
Don't
we're
do
not
that.
condoning that at all.
No, you don't want to do that.
So
Special handling needed for that. So.
excellent. Well, Dio, thanks again. Really appreciate having you on.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Definitely, for sure. And you
Right.
guys heard it there. You could be like Dio. You could live in Brazil and work in stuff in the Navy. But more importantly, how cool is optoelectronics? It's everywhere. Where do you guys think that the Navy and Marine Corps is now with it? And where do you think we're going? How do you think we're going to apply it? Or better question, how are you going to apply it? Because as Dio said, you could end up here. You never know. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day.